So I'm in the city of Saga, Kyushu, Japan, and I'm just getting on the train. But before I do that, I like to record my next episode of Street Brain Radio. And this time I like to discuss beauty. As a neuroscientist and also as art lover, I'm very much concerned with what beauty is. And, as you know, there are many studies which have address the question of what beauty is, and it is a field called neuroaesthetics, and there are many interesting, conclusions from that. But one of the things that I was very interested in earlier in my career was the fact that the average face is considered to be attractive, and this doesn't actually, mean that we see beautiful faces everywhere, because average would typically mean that there are many people with average features, but the fact that there are not so many beauty queens and beauty princes and so on is that because there are many parameters that would describe facial features, and it is very rare for people to have the average value for all of them. So it's not every day that you see a perfect beauty, whether it's a male or female. So this idea that the average face is a beautiful face, attractive face, is very interesting, and it is probably dependent on culture and historical context, because in Japan, for example, it used to be that in the samurai era, the standard of beauty was quite different from what we have today. It was probably because in the Fujiform gyrus, for example, human brain, we are exposed to many different samples of human face over the period of our lives, and presumably there would be some statistical ensemble holding in that area, so that ever since you're born, you see many faces, including your parents and your relatives and friends and so on. And from that, you would probably form a template, if you like, for facial recognition. And according to that template, you would have formed a standard for average face and a beautiful face. And so it can be different from country to country, culture to culture, and it can also depend on the time. So after modernization, the average Japanese people have been exposed to Western standards of beauty through cinemas, paintings, and so on. So that probably the aesthetics of the Japanese people concerning facial beauty have shifted. So that is why the beautiful ladies depicted in the ukiyo-e paintings in the samurai era are different from what we have today. The standard of beauty in Japanese society has been westernized, so to speak. And this is probably true for many countries and many regions in the world where they traditionally probably had different aesthetics of beautiful faces, but now because of westernization, they probably have a standardized idea all over the world about what beautiful faces entails. And if I talk like that, probably you are concerned about political correctness and this question whether cultural standardization is a great thing. And of course, the question of beauty is always coupled with politics. It is not such a great idea to call some people beautiful without reserving the fact that every individual features should be respected, and there are no hierarchy here. It's not that beauty equals value, or indeed there is universal standard for beauty. I mean, as I said, it is a fact that the average face is considered to be beautiful, but that doesn't mean that uniquely featured facial faces are not attractive. I mean, I personally feel that I have my friends and all of them are beautiful in my mind because they represent individuality, and we're not having a beauty contest. I mean, beauty contests are outdated anyway, and now I'm getting into the station through the automatic ticket machine, and this is the escalator. Anyway, so I'm not saying that beautiful people are better than anybody else. I mean, just observing the fact that there seems to be certain statistical measures that are behind our perception of the beautiful, and this begs the question of what the politics of the beautiful faces are. And I think it all depends on understanding of the diversity or variability of human features, and this doesn't apply only to external appearances. It would also mean that we have personal traits, and there are variabilities in the personal traits, and some personal traits might be considered to be acceptable, while others are less acceptable. But that would also depend on people's perception. And I feel that if you live in a civilized society, I think, excuse the train announcements, I'm on the platform now. This is how street brain radio works. And anyway, but you do feel that you are in Japan, don't you? I mean, I'm talking on the train platform. Anyway, and so I'm getting on the train bound for Hakata from here, Saga. And anyway, so as I was saying, we should all be encompassing of individual differences. And so just sticking to one particular idea of the beautiful is wrong, and especially because it is coupled with the statistical average. I mean, this I think is a very important message. I mean, if beauty is something that reflects the statistical average, there is all the more reason why we should be suspicious of it, perhaps, because it is coupled with this idea of something that is standard, something that is normal, or something that is typical. And, that could be a very oppressive factor when you try to express your individuality. So you don't have to be actually beautiful. I think you just can be yourself, and whether it is considered to be beautiful or not in your own jurisdiction, in your own culture, doesn't really matter. I mean, it only matters to be an individual. And this beauty contest idea, I mean, which is outdated anyway, as I said, is something that would be things of the past, because it is based on the idea that there would be a normal person, a typical person, an average person, and which is probably a really suspect idea scientifically and ethically, of course. And the fact that in our brain we seem to have neural mechanism which calculates the average of the facial features that we encounter in our life can be overcome by this metacognition of the fact that there is such a thing. If we are aware of the neural mechanisms that support us, if we understand the deep implications of that. Maybe we can be a master of this tendency in ourselves, not a slave of it. So goodbye beauty context and welcome the celebration of individuality. And I'm getting on the train. As you can, if you understand Japanese, you would have guessed that my train is coming to the platform. So I need to get on that. Otherwise, we wouldn't take the Shinkansen train bound for Tokyo. But anyway, it has been great to talk about individuality here in Saga, my mother's birth town, actually. So anyway, so we should say goodbye to the beauties and hello to individuality. That is a concluding message of this broadcast of Ken Moge's Street Brain Radio. Stay tuned until you listen to the next episode.